Hello, gentle viewers. This is Abendian. Welcome you to part 2 of the introduction to OOTP 18. Last episode, Baseball 101, should have given you most of the basics you need to understand a baseball game. We've only gotten through 1.5 innings, so there's still a lot of baseball to play. And what we're going to do now is we're going to switch away from one-pitch mode. Because by now you know how balls and strikes work. And by now you know, roughly speaking, most of the basics. So we want to make sure that every action is one batter. That'll give us more to talk about, and we can get into some of the intricacies, some of the other stuff that's a little bit more difficult to follow. So it's going to change from one-pitch mode, so there's only going to be one pitch. And we will now see what happens as we continue. This is Baseball 102. For those of you who've never been to an American college, usually the base course is 101 and then the next course is 102. I don't know why, it's just a thing. And every college is different, so. Okay. I don't know why that happened the way it did. So he hit the ball to the shortstop, and the shortstop should have thrown it to first base, but he didn't. Now in real life, there's lots of reasons this can happen. Usually maybe the bat got broken, which happens quite often, and the infielder's like, crap. Which is the ball, which is the bat? How do we get out of the way of the bat? Because it could be coming back at you pretty fast. More likely, you probably screwed up. When you pick up the ball, you pick it up with your batting glove, and then you throw it. Not your batting glove, your fielding glove. Batting glove is something very different. But you can screw up. You can pick up the ball, be like, oh, crap, who do I throw to? Oh, crap, the ball's caught in the glove. There's all kinds of things that can happen. So this is called an infield hit because the ball never left the infield, but he still reached first base successfully. This should have been an out. It wasn't. Lucky for us. And there's no error. That's what this E means here. I should probably talk a little bit about the scoreboard, shouldn't I? Balls on the current batter. Obviously, all baseball players have 2 balls, at least so far. There's never been a female player in Major League Baseball. There has been a female Major League Baseball league, but that's a little different question for another day. Strikes, outs, we already know all 3 of these. LP is last pitch. This tells you how fast it was. The last pitch was 72 miles an hour. R is runs, H is hits, E is errors, and then this is which inning it is. So we're the bottom half of the 2nd inning. We have, I always want to call him Dwight Schulte, after Dwight Schrute from The Office, the American Office, but that's not his name. Schulte hit that one pretty good, but that's probably going to be an out. Okay, so I hope you caught something very important. When he hit the ball, the first baseman took a few steps off of first base. Then he immediately went back. If, say, this player was a cyborg and could shoot the ball and get it to the first baseman before he got back, he could be tagged out. So when there's less than 2 outs, you always want to be a little bit more cautious. So it's a line drive, which means the ball is hit very, very hard directly to the left fielder, who just caught it, no problem. Still got a runner on second, still got a man up, and we only have 1 out. So let's see what happens next. And we get our first double play. So, because of the way, I really wish they didn't immediately leave the field. Then I can't actually show you where the players are. But hopefully you remember it. And you can always rewind the video a little bit and pause it after I talk about it and say what it says. So this was 2 force outs. So, first baseman runs a second. The person who picked up the ball was a second baseman. He threw the ball to the shortstop, who was standing on second base. When you've played a lot of baseball, you know if the ball's hit in this area, what is my responsibility? In this case, shortstop, he's got to run to second base as fast as he can. So, second baseman to shortstop, that's out number 1. It's a force out, which means he has to touch the base, not the runner. But we still got this old runner who's running from home plate to first base. And again, he can't turn around and go back. So the shortstop took the ball, threw it to first, the first baseman caught it, and that's out number 2. It's called a double play because there were 2 outs on 1 play. You can get a triple play, where you get 3 outs on 1 play, but it's really, really, really rare. You might see 2 in an entire season. And keep in mind that there's 30 Major League teams and 162 games. So it means in about 500 games of baseball, which counts the playoffs, maybe once or twice a season you'll see a triple play. It's a little more frequent than that, maybe more like 5 or 6. But that's still a pretty rare event. It happens less than 1% of the time. We probably won't see one here. Okay, another inning gone. Let's see what Harder manages. Oh, the first baseman dove for the ball and he missed it. So that was a hit. I am going to, because we're not going to talk about strategy, I'm going to go ahead and change this to... I'm going to let the AI make pitching decisions and stuff. Just so that we can focus on what's happening and not who wins the game. That's why I picked day. Okay. Okay, so he tried to bunt the ball, and he struck out. Okay, so if we do replay P by P... Oh, you get to see it again. Cool. So, in a bunt, you hold the baseball parallel to the... You hold the baseball. You hold the bat parallel to home plate. You're trying to basically just hit the ball off the very end of the bat. You're trying to deaden it. It's supposed to go fair, like right in front of the catcher, and then the catcher has to decide who to throw out. You probably won't get the guy on second, so he'll just throw to first, and it moves the guy up. In this case, he screwed up. If you bunt a pitch foul, it's a strikeout, and this is the only situation in which a ball hit foul can be a strikeout. So if there's ever an 0-2 count, you should never be bunting, but the AI apparently didn't care. Oh, that was an error. Okay. So did you see how the ball went to third baseman? And third baseman's like, what? And it kind of like bounced off his glove. That's an error. A professional baseball player should have grabbed that, or at least kept the ball in front of him, but he didn't. And now we have a base runner on second and a base runner on first. So now let's see what happens next. So we got runners on first and second, and it was only one out. Oh, that was perfect. Beautiful. So we hit the ball, it bounced in front of the center fielder. Now we have what's called bases loaded, which is when there's a runner on all 3 bases. There's a high probability we're going to score a run here unless we get no double play. Excuse me, the bad guys. Damn it, Philadelphia's up. But instead, we get another double play. Let's replay that. I'm going to do the replay button just so you can watch. So you want to watch the bat or the ball as it leaves the hitter's bat. Third baseman for 1. Throws it to second. Throws it to first. 5-4-3. Double play. Ends the inning. Really good defense picked up for that error. That could have been really bad. And now we're in the bottom of the third. With Saltzgaver up. Another error. Holy shit. So in the 1930s, defense was a lot worse than it was now. That was the easiest pitch in the world to hit, and he just kind of goes derp. He shouldn't even been able to hit that pitch. I mean, that was pretty far off the plate, but he still made contact, still went fair. Second baseman derped, and he reached first base safely. Now let's see if we can capitalize on that. So Mel Harder is up. Pitchers tend not to be very good at hitting, so he might actually bunt. That was a bunt. Okay, so did you see how the ball... So watch the pitch again. Notice how the ball just kind of died right after it passed home plate. That's what a bunt is supposed to do. It did get a batter out, but it did also put Saltzgaver on second base. And he's a pitcher. He probably wouldn't have gotten a base hit anyway. So as soon as you now have a runner in what's called scoring position, which is anything that's not first base, second, or third is considered scoring position, with only 1 out. Let's see what Max Bishop can do. Gets it right to the third baseman, and the third baseman makes a smart play. He's not going to get the guy running to second, so he throws to first instead. So we still got a runner on second, but now there's 2 outs. Woody English hits it to the second base and throws it over to first, and the inning's over. So we did get a guy on first base, but nothing really happened. I keep forgetting about the replay feature. This is called a pop fly, or a pop-up in this case. If the ball doesn't leave the infield, we usually call it a pop fly, especially if the ball goes really, really high in the air. When I played Little League Baseball when I was a kid, I was really good at these, which is actually bad because they're almost always outs. Here comes Mickey Cochran, and there's another out. Right down the third base line, picks it up, throws it over. Very slow game so far. Not a lot of scoring or a lot of hitting, which is unusual for the 1930s. Up, hit him. That's a bad pitcher. That's not very nice. What can Fonseca do? Oh, so he slid and he caught the ball before it hit the ground. This is really, really hard, but if you can do it, it's an out. I like the heavy metal soundtrack, even though it's the 1930s. And no one even knew about electric guitars back then, but it's fine. So that's an out. We got runner on first. Oh, that was nasty. So that just landed outside the second baseman's reach. And that's always able to reach first successfully. So first and second, one out. Right to the first baseman. But for whatever reason, he didn't throw this. This is called the fielder's choice. If there's two possible force outs, and in this case, he could have just stepped on the bag if he wanted to, or he could have thrown it to second. He chose to throw it to second. It doesn't mean anything at the end of the game, but it matters statistically. It matters for whether he gets credit for a hit or not, and he doesn't get credit for a hit. Because the fielder decided not to throw him out, not to step on the bag. We'll get into that when we talk about statistics in the next episode. And he struck out. So, that was bad. Up, another dive by the shortstop. Didn't quite make it. That's a single. So here's a test, and make sure you don't play forward yet. What do you think 6MD means? Hopefully you pause the video and set it to the computer screen. If you didn't, it's medium deep over the shortstop, because 6 is the shortstop's number. I should probably mention the numbers. So when you're scoring a baseball game, every player is assigned a number, not the one on the back of the jersey. Pitcher is 1, catcher is 2, first base is 3, second base is 4, third base is 5, shortstop is 6, left field is 7, center field is 8, right fielder is 9. Why it goes doot, 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 I don't know, but it just does. Even though the shortstop is always between the third baseman and the second baseman, remember, he's always number 6. Because he doesn't have a base, I guess, so he's not as cool. Strike out. And another double play. You guys are getting spoiled. A lot of double plays today. That ain't no double play. That's a single. So single and base hit. Technically, anything that isn't an out is a base hit. So a double's a base hit, a triple's a base hit, home run's a base hit. A single means you get one base on it. Oh, that was close. He almost made it to first before the first baseman caught the ball. It's fine. Max Bishop drew a walk. Nope, that's not gonna score a run, but we got bases loaded again. Now, one thing, if you watch a lot of baseball, lots and lots of commentators have lots of names for bases loaded. Might have heard ducks on the pond, bases juiced, bases loaded, 3-man on. There's like 10,000 different ways to say it. We'll just say bases loaded, so it's not to confuse people. Oh, we scored our first run. And our second run. Beautiful. And there we go. We've now broken the tie. It's now 2-0. So that's basically how a run is scored. You basically keep hitting the ball, and depending on how fast your base runners are, like the one guy scored from second, which is why I call it scoring from scoring position. Let's watch it again. So here's a guy in second. Turns around third, makes it home. For whatever reason, they didn't try to throw him out at the plate. And so there we go. That's what we call second base scoring position. Because most runners can run from second to home on a single. Oh, another error. Damn, bases loaded again with only one out. Right at the first baseman, though, and it's a double play. We got 2 runs. So the vast majority of baseball games typically have about 6 or 7 runs between the two teams. Some games are much higher scoring, some games are much lower scoring, but I think that's a good average. Oh, this is going to be a double. So if it's 2 bases on the hit, it's a double because it's twice a single. Makes sense? Pretty self-explanatory. So that was our first extra base hit. An extra base hit is any hit that isn't a single. He could have scored on that, I think. I think he's just being conservative. So Lou Gehrig's got what we call runners on the corners. Runners on first and third, nobody out. This is a very, very high percentage situation for scoring. Even on a double play, you'll score the run. So let's see what happens. He drew a walk. So now we have bases loaded with nobody out, which makes it much worse. Very nice. So when bases are loaded, because remember, every runner has to go forward if he can. If there's someone running behind him, you actually get a force out at home plate. That was a very smart move. That was like the one place on the field you could have hit it without it being an out. Without it being a run. Very smart. So bases are still loaded, but now it's 1 out. We still don't let anybody score. That's a foul ball. Is he going to catch it? He is going to catch it. So we've gotten extremely lucky. Bases loaded with nobody out, and we've gotten 2 outs. We just need 1 more. And we got it. Whew. That was extremely tense. We should have expected to give up at least a run, probably 2 or 3, and we gave up 0. Because of really smart defensive play and a little bit of luck. A lot of luck. I think they need to work a little bit more on how these infielders react. I know it's just... So this is just a 3D representation of what happens during the game. So the engine says, player gets infield hit. And here's roughly where it's hit. But the 3D representation, it looks like he caught the ball and then just like stared at it. For like 3 seconds. Like, where did this come from? What's a baseball? Why are we here? No one knows why you're here. Chuck Dressen just bunted. Very savvy. Runner on second. In reality, actually, bunting is actually a pretty low percentage play. It's actually not that smart. But we'll talk about that when we talk about strategy. So now we got a ground ball to move Schultz up to third. We got 2 outs, but if this is a fair ball, it's going to be a run. Or you could just strike out Mel Harder because he's a pitcher and he sucks at hitting. Flip. So I hope baseball makes a little bit more sense to you than it did before. The game's kind of going kind of fast. We might do a preliminary examination of statistics if we finish this early enough. Oh, it's Take Me Out to the Ball Game. I'm not going to sing. You can look it up on YouTube if you want. But in the bottom half of the 7th inning, you play this song that was written by a guy in like the 1920s who'd never actually seen a baseball game called Take Me Out to the Ball Game. It's pretty great, I have to admit. Oh, he fucked up. Yep, reached on error. Here comes Woody English. Oh, look at him motor over to third. Damn, Bishop, that was smart. Now we've got runners at the corners with no 1 out. Oh, wow. So a balk is one of the rarest plays in baseball. I did not expect to see one. So there are certain rules about how the pitcher can react when there are runners on base. He can't be tricking runners into thinking he's going to throw the ball when he doesn't. You ever have a dog at home and you like pretend to throw the ball because you want the dog to leave, but you don't actually throw the ball? You can't do that in baseball. You can to a certain degree, but it's very specific rules. Balks are so rare and so weird. The most common cause of it in modern baseball is usually he fakes the ball to a base where there's no one there, because the batter just gets the pitcher gets a brain fart. Like there's no one on third, but you pretend to throw the ball to third. If there's no one there, it's a balk. If you touch your mouth while you're on the pitcher's mound, it's a balk, because there's something called a spitball, which you can throw, and it's illegal. You can't do it in baseball, but it changes the way your ball reacts if you make the ball wet. There's a couple other things you can do for balks, but that's usually it. Yeah. So, now that we have a base runner, we should talk about pickoff throws, which I haven't done yet. So we scored on a balk, which is really weird, and if you see 100 baseball games, you won't see that. The pitcher has the option to throw the ball in an attempt to get the second baseman out. Like, maybe the second baseman looks like he's going to steal, and so English here, walks to about here. The pitcher can spin around and throw the ball to the second baseman and maybe get an out if he tags him on his way back. You'll see what's called a rundown. So let's say, for example, the second baseman makes it about here, and he throws it to the second baseman. He's just not going to go back to second. He's going to try to go to third. Then he throws the ball to third. He's going to try and go back and forth and back and forth. Rundowns are really weird. They happen semi-frequently, but usually not for very long. And usually it ends up with the base runner being out. Out in foul territory. So he's off with the pitch. He makes it to third, but it's still a ground ball out. Here's McQuinn. Oh, I think that's an out. Yep. It hung up just a little bit too long. That's a double. Well done. Well, not well done for our team, but balks are so weird and so rare. I highly recommend going online and looking up the rules for it. Especially because they don't really show that in OOTP because the models aren't good enough. I can't really explain to you how he in particular balked because I can't see his hand. Okay, so we got runners on first and third with nobody out. We've seen that a lot all of a sudden. Pitchers are probably getting tired. That's bad. That's an out. Or that's a run, rather. RBI single. RBI means run batted in. And it's the worst stat in history, and I hate it. And we'll talk about that in the stats episode. Bases are now loaded. He catches it. He's going to throw to the plate. Not even close. He tried, though. He tried. So now they got runner. They just changed pitchers. You can tell because of the asterisks. Jim Turner cups up. He's got a runner on first. That could be a home run. It is not, though. It's a fly ball out. And we got out of it. We only gave up 2 runs. That's possibly a hit. It is, just barely. Dressen. There's way too much bunting. I know it's the 1930s, and there were a lot of bunts in the 1930s, but it's a bit silly. Especially when the hitters are pretty good, because now you got to have the pitcher hit. That was really good. I like that. I don't know if you caught that. Let's actually watch it again. Watch the right fielder. That's a really common thing in baseball. I love that. He stopped. He's like, holy shit, I misjudged it. He moves a few more feet over to the left, and he catches it. That's a really nice touch. Well done, out of the park developments. Well done. That was hit hard. That's a single. He bunted it right back to the pitcher, which means actually a fly ball out. So basically that means the ball hit the bat because he bunted. He held the bat parallel. So you can kind of like aim the bat. It bounced off the bat and landed in his glove. So that's just an out. And you can't move up on it. You could, but you'd be out. Should be an easy double play, and it was. That's it. We just completed our first game. And we've got about 10 minutes left. So I think now is a good time to talk about some very basic statistics. What you're looking at right now is called a box score. And a box score is what tells you what happened during the baseball game. Anyone who knows how to read these can look at just this page and know exactly what happened in the baseball game. At least have a pretty good idea. So there's lots of things to unpack on this screen. Let's talk about them. The first and most important concept to understand is the at-bat. Anytime a batter goes up to home plate, it's an at-bat unless he drew a walk or got hit. So if you look at Lou Gehrig, for example, he's got 3 at-bats when he should have 4 because one of his at-bats was a walk. Makes sense? So remember, if he can't swing the bat, if he can't swing the bat, it's not an at-bat. It's kind of an odd way to think of it, but that's where that comes from. Hits is pretty self-explanatory. If you get a hit, you get a number. So what happens is you take hits, divide by at-bats, and you get batting average. Now this is for the whole season, not just one game. You don't do batting averages for one game, you do it for one season. So in this particular game, he had a 500 batting average. It should be .500, but we always just say 500. So this is 336, or just 336, 285, 333. 1,000 means every time you were at bat, you got a hit. Or you just like drew 4 walks or something. Okay. That's pretty easy, I think. A run, you physically cross the plate. Doesn't matter why you crossed home plate. You can get a run and not have any. You can get a run and not have any hits. That happened twice to Bishop, because once he got on with a walk and once he got on with an error. So there you go. 0 hits, 2 runs. BB means walk for base on balls. You may say, why don't they use W? Because W means win. So if you draw a walk, you get a BB, base on balls. K for strikeout. This is because the letter S is used in 2 other baseball statistics. Most often the save, which we might talk about in a little bit, and more commonly singles. For a long time, singles were designated with an S. They don't want people confused between singles and strikeouts, so they called strikeouts Ks. LOB is left on base. This means that there was a runner on base when this guy came up to bat, and he didn't score him. So D'Alessandro left 5 runners on base. That's pretty bad. HR is home run. That's if you hit the ball over the wall in fair territory. Everyone on base scores. And we didn't have a home run in this game. It's the 1930s. Home runs weren't all that common. That's it for hitters. If you go into the batting line, you see how many doubles, total bases. So a single is 1 base, double is 2, triple is 3, home run is 4. So Hodap got 2 hits, both of which were doubles. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 total bases. Make sense? Walks don't count as a total base, only hits do. Runner left in scoring position with 2 outs. Again, we talked about scoring position, that's second base or third base. GIDP, grounded into double play. Makes sense. We missed it. Sacrifice fly. If there's a runner on third and there's less than 2 outs, you can hit the ball to the outfield. Even if it's caught, the runner on third, after the ball is caught, can run home. So the batter is out, but he still drove in a run. So we call it a sacrifice fly. Makes sense. Team LOB. This is how many innings they left someone on base, I think. So 5 out of the 9 innings, they left someone on base. Either the other innings, it means either they didn't have anyone on base or they had people on base but scored them all. Errors. Jimmy Dykes made 2. Eddie Moore made 1. Double play. So this is person who originally picked it up. Dykes threw to Moore, threw to Gehrig. Gehrig threw to Moore, threw to Malone. Pretty straightforward. Now let's talk about pitching statistics. A lot of these are going to look very, very similar. IP is innings pitched. It's either going to be a whole number, 0.0, or a whole number, 0.1, or a whole number, 0.2. This means he pitched 7 innings and got 1 batter out in another inning. So it's 1/3, 7 1/3 innings. By just abbreviate as 0.1. So 1/10 of an inning, it's 1/3 of an inning. Weird, I know, but it's baseball. Here, 1 full inning of outs, 2 additional batters. That means 1 2/3 innings, and then 8 full innings. H is the number of hits the pitcher gave up, runs the number of runs he allowed. Earned runs, the number of runs that were his fault. So if a runner reaches base on an error, and it's determined that if the error didn't happen, no runs would have scored, it's called an unearned run. This is a really confusing and kind of pointless stat, but it's one that's been kept track of for like 90 years, so it's one that you probably want to keep in mind. So just to repeat, runner reaches base on an error, and the official scorer, and it's the official score, there's one for every baseball game, determines would he not have scored if the error didn't happen. You kind of go back in time. And in this case, they're saying one of his runs was unearned, meaning if the error hadn't happened, he would have given up 2 runs instead of 3. BB is straightforward, walks. K is forward, strikeouts. HR is how many home runs allowed. PI is total pitches. PS is pitches that were strikes. And you can also see that down here too. ERA is earned run average, which is earned runs over innings pitched. So he allows every 9 innings 2 1/4 runs, which is really good. That's really good, actually. Most major league pitchers are typically between 3 and 4 for their ERA, so they allow 3 to 4 runs a game. Game score is meaningless. We won't bother talking about it. There's a specific way you can add it up. It's not that important. Batters faced. How many batters did they face? The minimum you can face is 27, which is everyone faces you once and then is immediately out. So 27 is the minimum number of batters faced. You're almost always going to have more than 27. Ground outs. So that is batter picks it up off the ground, or fielder picks it up off the ground, throws them out. That's a ground out. Catch it in the air, it's a fly out. You might be wondering, hey, that's only 19 outs. Well, we also got 3 strikeouts. That's 22 outs. So there's 2 outs missing. Wonder where that came from. Because it should add up to 27. Something's not right here. Something's not being counted, and I'm not sure what it is. Pitches, number of the strikes, hit batsman, and a balk. Inherited runners. If you make a pitching change and there's someone on base, those runs are attributed to the guy who left the game because they're his runners. So this means Turner gave up a run, but it wasn't his run because there was already a runner on base. So when Turner got on, there was one person on base and he didn't score. So Turner did a good job. Harder gets the win, and to get a win in Major League Baseball for a pitcher, the pitcher had to throw at least 5 innings, had to come out of the game when his team was winning, and the game could never have been tied again. Once a game is tied, someone else will get the win. Jim Turner, got what's called a save. The save is actually a very new statistic. It started being recorded in like the 1970s. If a pitcher comes into the game with a run with a lead of less, with 3 or less, and pitches at least, he actually doesn't have to pitch a full inning. And if he's the last pitcher, he gets a save. There's more to it than that, and we'll talk about saves a little bit later, but I'm trying to make sure we don't miss anything important from the box score. And then a loss is whichever pitcher gave up the lead in the first place. Losses are pretty straightforward. SB, stolen base. For his first stolen base of the year, actually, he had no stolen bases during the actual season. Anything else? Not really. There were a lot of people left in scoring position with 2 outs. That was actually pretty bad. And these down here are the totals. And that is absolutely perfect timing because we just finished the video. So I hope you've enjoyed Baseball 102. Hopefully these 2 videos gave you a good understanding of how the fundamentals of baseball work. There's lots of things we haven't talked about. So please don't take this as you are now an expert in all things baseball. But you know enough. Oh, I forgot. PR is pinch runner. That's when you take a base runner out of the game, you put someone else on to run for them. And then PH is pinch hitter, and usually you pinch hit for a pitcher. The next episode is going to be all about statistics. So if you like numbers, you're going to like the game. You're going to like the episode. We're going to go into the advanced statistics too, to the best of my knowledge. I don't understand all the formulae, but I understand most of them. So be on the lookout for that episode. And then we'll talk more about OOTP strategy, and we'll be doing that in episode 4 and episode 5. And then beginning next week, we'll start doing the proper seasons again. We'll just go back to it. So that'll be it for this episode. Again, please leave any questions you have in the comments. I'll be sure to answer them. You can also ask me questions on Twitter. But for now, like, subscribe, comment if you have questions, and until next time, this has been Avindian, and I bid you good day.